Nobody wins when the family feels.
To take down DNA, he wouldn't give them his DNA, so they had to serve him a search warrant to get his DNA.
Get out, and then they have to have an experience before they realize I should have checked in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The acting United States Attorney here in Los Angeles. Today, we're here to announce federal criminal charges against Eugene Henley Jr., a career criminal known as Big U, who used his contacts and leadership role in the Crips criminal street gang, the entertainment industry, and a youth charity to further his own criminal enterprise, an enterprise that engaged in murder, extortion, robbery, human trafficking, COVID fraud, and other felonies. Mr. Henley and several other individuals linked to him and his criminal enterprise were charged in a criminal complaint with federal racketeering conspiracy. Mr. Henley is a fugitive, and he is currently wanted by federal law enforcement. Other individuals linked to his criminal enterprise were arrested today, approximately 10 defendants who are charged in various indictments. Again, Mr. Henley is a fugitive. 4 defendants are in state custody and will be transferred into federal custody, and we are still seeking Mr. Henley and another fugitive.
Another RICO had just took place that had prominent figures in that indictment. This time we're going to Los Angeles, family, where we talk about the rolling 60s Crips, a gang that was well known for people like Big U, a man that's also in this indictment. Also associated with this gang was the late rapper, may he rest in peace, Nipsey Hussle. Big U always has some form of talks surrounding his demise. Who put the hit out? Who was in control? Is it still real leadership that someone in your own gang, who's not technically the boss, take out such prominent figure in Nipsey Hussle? Also in this indictment is a man who recently made his waves in podcasting on No Jumper, a man who go by the name of Brick Baby, alongside 18 other defendants. Today we go over this story. With so much speculation throughout the years, we finally have confirmation in black and white. Recently the feds have listed a number of events: extortion, politicking, and the damaging of a mall, murder. The murder of a high school standout football player who was the best friend of Big U's son. He was also a rapper, and according to the feds, he made a diss song which we'll later discuss. And after making that diss song, which seems to aim at Big U, that man was found deceased, thrown in the middle of the highway. Now what make this story even more crazier, this was brought up about 6 days ago by Whack 100, a man who allegedly is a leader of the Bloods gang, once friends with Big U, but lately they turned enemies. And I find it ironic that Big U get indicted just 6 days later, what some people thought was just mere speculation. Today we go over this indictment, talk about each count, go over the events that's listed in this indictment, and see where they stand today. But before we go over this one, I want you guys to remember, I don't give you no angle, I just give you the story. So with that being said, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. We're gonna jump right to it. Find me, Eugene Big U Henley, a Crips leader who helped launch Nipsey Hussle's career and was dubbed rap's godfather by people like Wiz Khalifa. He recently has been accused of murder, kidnapping, robbery, extortion, fraud by federal authorities. As part of Big U's purported grip on Los Angeles, his alleged victims were required to check in with Henley before arriving in the city in order to obtain quote-unquote protection. According to the 107-page federal complaint unveiled today, among those Big U allegedly extorted were professional athletes and musicians. The complaint said, whose business interests were not always legitimate. Federal authorities likened Big U enterprise to a quote mafia-like organization end quote that relies on his stature and long-standing associates with the rolling 60s and other street gangs to intimidate businesses and individuals in LA. Authorities said today in a press conference, which we'll later check out, that Big U is a fugitive on the run, and more than a dozen others are in custody tied to a sprawling criminal case. The U.S. District Attorney, quote, Big U has maintained the image of an entertainment industry entrepreneur, running a music label, and of somebody who gives back to the community of Los Angeles. The U.S. Attorney Joseph had, quote, the facts alleged in the complaint a very different picture. There's one of a murderer, a thief, a liar, and a cheater, and the criminals that enabled him. Following a years-long FBI investigation, federal authorities have accused Big U of kidnapping and fatally shooting a young rapper in the face and leaving his body in the Las Vegas desert over perceived disrespect, which we'll later discuss in further details. According to the indictment, in directing the robbery of an unlicensed LA marijuana dispensary that had stopped making extortion payments. This was 107 pages, fam. But Big U also allegedly defrauded companies, donors, athletes, and celebrities, including professional basketball player Draymond Green and former NBA MVP Shaquille O'Neal, persuading them to donate to his charities and later alleging transferring the money to his own personal bank accounts. Authorities also have accused Big U of fraudulently obtaining funding from the Gang Reduction and Youth Development Program, overseen by the LA's mayor's office. Now, the backstory on Big U, he previously served 13 years in prison after trying to rob an undercover sheriff's deputy of 33 pounds of cocaine in 1991. His son is a linebacker for the Los Angeles Chargers.
This weekend, and one former WSU Cougar was lucky enough to hear his name called in the third round.
Crim 2's Andrew Quinn sat down with Dayon Henley to discuss his big day.
Well, it's the call every football player longs to hear, and it came on day 2 of the 2023 NFL Draft for Dayon Henley, and it just so happened to be from one of his hometown teams.
I'm a Charger. Just to be home and be able to be in my city and be a Charger is probably the greatest feeling, something I couldn't even imagine.
The Los Angeles Chargers drafted Henley with the 85th overall pick in the third round. It may have been a longer wait than Henley expected for the call, but he is keeping it all in perspective.
I was a 2-star recruit out of high school. Didn't have a position. I redshirted as a junior in college. It's not normal. So to go to the third is a blessing. If I was to go undrafted, if I was to slide to the 7th, what people fail to realize is I would still be going to the NFL. So I'm beyond blessed and grateful for the situation and where I am.
Henley shined as a senior at WSU, finishing second in the Pac-12 in tackles and becoming a finalist for the Dick Butkus Award. He credits the WSU coaching staff for preparing him so well for the NFL.
I spent a lot of time in that film room, a lot of time with my coaches talking and having extra conversations. Coach Dickard, asking him a million questions because I knew that he had knowledge upon my position and just eating off of those with greater knowledge than I have in the sport that I love.
Henley now joins a defense filled with longtime NFL stars, and he hopes to soak up even more knowledge to help improve his game.
Shout out SpongeBob. I'm trying to be the biggest sponge above ocean level and take in anything I can, you know. I just aspire to be like the guys that I'm going to be around, and I want to be accepted in as a key role player eventually. And I know nothing is given, so I want to earn that, of course.
Henley will wear number 0 in LA, and when I asked Dayon why number 0, he said, "I'm the first Charger to ever wear that number, and I'm thinking of making a statement and starting my career by doing something no one has ever done before. The Ranger is already standing out in his early NFL."
Also, according to this indictment, Big U, alleged right-hand man, Sylvester Robinson, and trustee Lieutenant Mark Martin are accused of violating the RICO Act. Now, authorities also have charged Rayshawn Williams, a.k.a. Lucci Cannon, with robbery, Armani Afaji, a.k.a. Monty, with transporting an individual to engage in prostitution, and Frederick Blayton Jr. and Tiffany Hines with bank fraud. All of them are in custody, except Big U. In an affidavit filed with the criminal complaint, Andrew Rosa, a special agent with the FBI, said members and associates of the Big U enterprise used Big U's and the group's history and reputation to, quote, control, end quote, Los Angeles through violence, fear, and intimidation. Now that's funny because Big U once did an interview on $1 Million Worth of Game with Wallow and Gilly, and he spoke about how he handled disputes or problems within his own camp. Also on this show, or on this episode rather, was Whack 100. Check out about 60 seconds.
But let me tell you, she tell a nigga, you know, I don't even think it was for the rest of the table to hear. But she tell the nigga on some deep shit. She said, yeah, nigga, because you're getting soft.
What?
And he say, hey,
So let me tell you.
No, hold on.
What
He
the
said,
fuck?
no,
Hold on,
wait, hold on.
You gonna
After I
agree
tell
with
the
me
story.
100.
After I tell the story. Right, so you know me.
It was more to the story.
I'm instigating. Damn, getting soft. So now it's out the whole table. She looked right at me. Yeah, Gilly, nigga getting soft.
Now I'ma tell you.
Now he gotta say. Now he gotta speak up. No. See, what I tell you about? I ain't getting soft. One of my homies was at the house, and he did something she ain't like. She wanted me to break the nigga arm, and I ain't break the nigga. Yeah, she looked at him and said, listen, she looked at him and said, yeah, you should have broke his fucking arm.
I'm gonna give you an
That's
analogy.
all.
I'm gonna give you an
She
analogy.
let me in, I go to sleep.
Now catch this analogy. You remember how you called me about Lil Youngster, our little family? He did some fuck shit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so you could have cut his head off.
Yeah.
Or cut an ear off.
But we don't.
Stacy was like, you should have cut the nigga ear off. Or you should have did something to him.
Broke
like,
the
no.
nigga arm.
Down.
he
The
wasn't
only difference is
Stacey a gangster.
the reason why a woman doesn't
She
rule
a
a
homie.
nation. Reason why a woman shouldn't rule a nation
'Cause they
she
emotional.
will rule with emotion.
Emotions.
And a man won't. Because I understand. Sometimes if I do something, let me explain it to
But
you.
you acted off emotion.
You telling
No, I
me
didn't.
You just
you
beat a
telling me
whole.
wherever it was one like our
It
little
didn't
dude.
warrant.
Okay.
It didn't warrant me because I
Yeah.
could have lost more by being physical with one of the little homies who did something wrong, or I could have let that go and let everybody else see that I show mercy sometime. And her mind is no, cut his ear off. You should at least cut his ear. You should have got something. But every time you don't use Bron.
So it's safe to say that it was growth involved.
It was growth. That's
No,
what I,
no,
and
definitely.
she was like,
No.
no, you getting soft. She like, you should have. And I'm like, no, but look
But
at where
then
now.
if we
Now he's
don't
in the
do it
fold.
that way-
Never had another product since then. Still doing everything. he's
But
supposed
hold
to.
on, though, bro. If we don't do it that way and we taking count, then they telling us we should make better decisions.
And we being too mean. You know, I learned from youngsters. Let me tell you something. I had a situation having one of my homeboys. He didn't pay a debt, and he didn't do something. And I called one of my other little homies. Said, "Look, bring him to me." So when he got to me, but before he got to my little homie, said, my other little homie said, you like pops, you know, you like Like, man, you had niggas scared in the world because we can't make one mistake. And so ever since my little homeboy said that to me, and he was basically talking simply for somebody else. He wasn't even the one who was on the table. But he made me realize, like, okay, you can't just be bronze all the way. And I hate to give a story on like one of my close friends.
Well, here go the problem
from Main
with that.
Street.
But you know what the problem was, right? With that.
Let me give you one more
Here
story.
go the problem, though,
Del
bro.
Dog.
Now, the feds claimed that the Big U enterprise was a front for promoting himself as a reformed gang member focused on bettering the community. But now you got a pretty good idea on who Big U is, well, at least according to the public. Let's talk about the details in this paperwork, starting with the Las Vegas killing. Fam, meet Rayshawn Williams. He was a wide receiver for Crenshaw High. He lived with Big U because he was the best friend to Big U's son, who now played for the Chargers. 5 days before his demise in January of 2021, Rayshawn Williams recorded a diss song. In his affidavit, the agent said he believed that Williams' diss song was about Big U, whose independent record label, Unique Music, was representing the 21-year-old rapper. Now, it's unclear whether Big U heard diss lyrics prior to the killing, according to the complaint. In the diss song, Williams referred to Big U as the, quote, bro that makes some money, end quote. Now, Williams rapped himself that he might get himself shot in the face for thinking shit funny. He mentioned a .38 revolver with no trace. Now, 5 days later after that diss song, Las Vegas police found Williams' body in a ditch near a landfill on January 25th, 2021. May he rest in peace and love and condolences to his family. He'd been shot in the face with a revolver that left no shell casings. According to the affidavit, Unique Music paid to fly Williams from California to Las Vegas in January 2021 and put him up in an Airbnb. His family said Big U had coached the young rapper in football since he was young. Williams was supposed to spend a week at the recording studio and record a song a day, but he missed some days. When Williams didn't show up to the studio on January 23rd, 2021, investigators said Big U and Robinson drove from LA to Las Vegas to confront him. A friend of Williams, identified only as CA, recounted that Big U arrived at the Airbnb around 2 a.m. on January 24th, 2021. Big U asked why Williams hadn't shown up to the studio. CA told the authorities Williams claimed he didn't have a ride. Quoting, "I believe Williams wasting the time, thereby disparring Big U name and the Big U Enterprise reputation, and potentially flaunting that disrespect with the lyrics of the diss song led to a dispute, according to the feds." But nonetheless, they headed to the studio. Big U arrived at the studio about 7 p.m. Williams arrived a couple hours after and recorded until midnight. Witnesses told authorities about 12:30 a.m. Big U left the studio. The dark gray Lexus that he and Robinson had driven to the studio was no longer there. According to the feds, shortly before 1 a.m., Big U's phone stopped reporting locations data. It didn't start again until about 2:15 a.m. Surveillance footage at the Airbnb where Williams was staying captured a dark gray and silver sedan, arriving about 1:13 a.m. According to the complaint, Williams got out of the passenger side of the car, went inside, and returned a few minutes later with a suitcase. Despite the fact that the Airbnb was rented for another date, and he was not set to leave on a flight until the following day. Around 3 a.m., a witness said Big U returned to the studio alone. The witness said Big U appeared to be drenched in either sweat or water. Now at this point you figure Big U know exactly who this witness is, because according to the feds, Big U told the witness he was coming back from the gym, according to the complaint. Hours later, on January 25th, 2021, at around 9 a.m., Williams' body was found in a ditch. He had died of multiple gunshot wounds. He was shot in the face. Authorities compared DNA collected from Williams' body to Big U's DNA profile. The result was inconclusive, but Big U, quote, could not be excluded, end quote, as a suspect, according to the complaint. Also documented in the complaint following the homicide, Big U allegedly arranged for recording equipment from the studio to be removed and surveillance video to be destroyed. The feds wrote that they believed the footage would have shown an altercation between Big U and Williams the night of the killing, and at minimum, Big U and Williams leaving the studio together shortly before Williams' murder. A month after Williams' death, the FBI LA Metropolitan Task Force on Violent Gangs launched an investigation into Big U Enterprise and its association with the Rolling 60s. Now in this indictment, it also pointed out that Big U is considered an original gangster, an OG. Big U is an admitted member and original gangster, or OG, of the Rolling 60s, and someone who, quote, widely regarded as a leader, end quote, within the game. Now this is where they do the check-ins. But before we do that, listen to what Big U have to say in regards to what checking in means. Check it out.
The youngsters get out and then they have to have an experience before they realize I should have checked in.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Or I should have called, or I should have been moving a certain way. And so they get out and they might be under your banner, but then they not respecting the banner. They ain't calling you. They got your number. Mm-hmm. They know who you is, but they feel like they bigger than the program. You know, and you got a lot of dudes, like when I was here last time, that claim my neighborhood that's in this music shit, but they don't really fuck with us until it's a problem. Then they call them. Like Quando Rondo. I just showed Envy. Like, you can't call me now. You can't call me when the fire hot.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't fuck with me before that. You know what I mean? You had my number. You could have called me. You could have did all that. You know what I mean? But he was around about. But how is that fair to me? How is that?
So now you know how Big U feel. In 2022, according to the feds, they interviewed a witness identified as CW1, corroborating witness 1, who claimed that rap artists, athletes, and other visitors needed to pay Big U a fee when they came to the city. CW1 told authorities about a large buy-in dice game in LA in June 2019. The game involved a professional boxer, identified only as AB, AB's associates, and several prominent NBA players. According to CW1, AB and his associates fixed the game, cheating the NBA players out of millions of dollars using teased dice. After the game, according to the feds, Big U directed his associates to rough up AB, who had not checked in with Big U, and to get the money back from him on behalf of the cheated NBA players. Multiple members of the Rolling 60s allegedly arrived and were used to press AB. Big U stepped in. CW1 told authorities, quote, because he was involved in and/or would approve of any dice games or similar events, such as parties involving large sums of money and prominent NBA players players and celebrities, end quote, in the city. According to the complaint, CW1 knew other times in which NBA players or celebrities would need to get approval in advance from Big U to ensure their safeties at events such as parties, games, or advertising shoots. CW1 said the celebrities would have to pay Big U for protection and approval or face retaliation from Big U Enterprise. In a monitored meeting between Big U and someone identified only as Victim 1, Big U recounting that he got into it with AB after AB cheated a current NBA All-Star out of $1.5 million and a former NBA All-Star out of $5 million. Big U also talked about charging the players $100,000 to get their money back. In a podcast Big U hosted called Checking In that was on World Star Hip Hop, he said every city he goes to, he quote, I check in with somebody, end quote. But he has denied charging fees for those coming to LA, quote, I never made no athlete, no robber give me nothing, end quote. Big U said in the interview with Genius, a digital media company, they reach out to me because they feel a connection to me and my neighborhood for whatever that reason. Now the next segment in this complaint will be titled How to Rob Yourself. The complaint laid out various robberies allegedly carried by Big U Enterprise, including one at an unlicensed marijuana dispensary in LA on June 5th, 2021. In that case, the victim told authorities he'd been paying Enterprise up to $25,000 per month in extortion fees. After he stopped paying, he said nearly a dozen of Big U Enterprise members and associates, along with Rolling 60 members, rushed into the dispensary armed with firearms. They were not wearing masks to obscure their identities. They allegedly stole cash and marijuana from the store before fleeing. That same day, Big U allegedly invited the victim to his home, where he laid out what had been stolen from the dispensary. Quote, that's how you rob yourself, end quote, Big U allegedly had said. The feds wrote, throughout their investigation, the FBI obtained recordings of Big U Enterprise members and associates discussing robberies that they were doing or planned to do. In one case, the feds say that he heard Big U on a wiretap planning a robbery of people who had stolen equipment from a celebrity rapper using the Apple AirTag that was with the equipment. Big U, Mitchell, and others got guns and began their stage of robbery. They called it off after spotting police arrived at the location. According to the complaint, Big U organized a birthday party at Deja Vu for himself in December of 2021. He allegedly negotiated to receive roughly 33% of the bar proceeds and promised that famous rappers including Wiz Khalifa and T.I. would attend. The night of the birthday party, Big U, Robinson, Martin, and others associates turned up at the club. A victim told authorities he watched as Robinson, Martin, and 3 other associates took a different victim into a back room and extorted $30,000 from him. And by the way, fam, none of the promised celebrity rappers arrived according to the complaint. Now here's the alleged fraud of the complaint. Authorities also accuse Big U of fraudulently obtaining funding from the LA mayor's office through the Gang Reduction Youth Development Program. Since around 2015, according to the feds, Big U nonprofit Development Options has received $550,000 annually as part of the program. The nonprofit was allotted over $2.3 million from the city from July 1st, 2018 to June 30th, 2023. From that, according to the feds, Big U has drawn hundreds of thousands of dollars, purportedly in salary. According to the complaint, the GRYD program, quote, has extensive mandatory handbook that is apprehended to each contract and that Developing Options, like every other GRYD contractor, must comply with, end quote. Among many requirements are extensive criminal background checks, compliance, training, approval of employees, attendance at meetings, logging activities, and cooperating with local law enforcement. Fraudulently, Big U allegedly applied for federal pandemic relief loans for Developing Options, Unique Music, and other businesses. Finally, authorities accuse Big U of committing wire fraud by embezzling more than $100,000 in donations to Developing Options. Although none of the donors were identified in the complaint, the names was confirmed by federal sources and public interviews. Among them was Draymond Green, who made a $20,000 donation to Developing Options in August of 2019. Big U allegedly embezzled the entire donation, transferring the funds to his personal checking account. Another was Shaquille O'Neal, who wrote a $20,000 check intended to support Developing Options at the Crenshaw Rams youth sports team. Big U allegedly transferred most of the money to his bank account. As of now, Big U is not apprehended, but he faced up to 20 years for the RICO charge, but could get a life sentence. The jury has agreed to commit the murder specifically. Now, I know that was a lot, but we're talking about 105 pages, years worth of evidence. Shout out to Las Vegas Fox, the local news, $1 million worth of game, New York Times, and the Las Vegas Times. Not to mention the LA Times. Fam, this was the story of a prominent gang member who's been indicted by the feds on a RICO charge for acts of murder, extortion, and many more. As more develop, I'll keep you guys updated. Let me know how you guys feel about this one in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And today, I'll catch you guys on the next one.